Governor Cox has a relationship with her, so we felt like it was a good time for us to get together and reach out to her and see what we can do as a state to set the record straight on the fact that we're not a sanctuary state. We are willing to work on these issues. Sheriffs, are planning on leading the charge to some extent. We've tried some out of the box thinking when it comes to finding creative ways to get bed space in our state, for example. And our interest is to get criminals off the street. So if there are illegal criminals out there that we can help find and locate and get incarcerated, maybe eventually deported. That's our goal, and we intend to work with the new administration, incoming administration, to facilitate what we can. It's obviously their responsibility and their job, but we can help them in a lot of ways, and that's what we want to do.
Do we need an ICE facility in Utah?
That depends on what you mean by an ICE facility, right? So across the country, ICE doesn't actually own many facilities. They typically actually contract with private vendors to house civil detainees. There are a few sheriffs around the country that house civil detainees, but not very many. And so that's what I'm saying. When we say we're thinking out of the box, we're trying to find creative ways to work with public and private entities to see what facilities might be available, what facilities could be built. We want to strike a balance. We don't want to have a huge facility that's beyond what we need in our state, but we do need some beds. The first step in this process of picking up, criminal aliens is to have a place to put them. And right now, that's pretty sparse.
What changes need to happen, or would you like to see happen with the Salt Lake City field office?
Yeah, we've had a hard time working with the administration there. You read in the letter, if you looked at it, Michael Bernanke's been a little bit of a hurdle or roadblock for us, both state and local law enforcement, as we've tried to navigate this situation. He sort of single-handedly labeled us as a sanctuary state, which we took offense to, as you know, and we just think there's better ways to fix the issues and work together to try to solve the problems that exist in the state of Utah. We're trying to put our best foot forward. If we do get some new leadership in the state, I'm very optimistic actually that we'll be able to get together and make some good progress on this issue.
Sheriff, you're in a unique spot of the state because you border Arizona, right? And you're closer to what would be the southern border than many of our Wasatch Front communities or the counties up north. What is just your general experience with working with ICE or working with folks that are coming here and live here illegally or driving through illegally, whatever that is? But in Kane County, what do you see and what do you anticipate would even change at this point?
Yeah, not a whole lot as it relates to actual residents. I live rural Utah. I live in a county of about 10,000 or less than 10,000 people. But I am right on the Arizona border. I'm on the executive board with the Western State Sheriff's Association, and on that board I serve with Sheriff Mark Daniels from Cochise County, Arizona, which is right on the Mexico border. Mark is the president of the Southwest Border Sheriffs Coalition, and I work really closely with Mark. So I have been to the border. I've been to Mark's County. I've spent some time down there looking at the systems they use to try to enforce border crossings and things like that. So it is something I've taken an interest in, and I've taken people there from Utah to see what's going on really real time on the border over the last couple of years, and I've been multiple times a month. I've been updated on how things are going, what kind of progress is taking place with the incoming administration to really have a shotgun approach at this. If we're going to deport people, we have to have a place to take them, and so the federal government has to negotiate those deals with countries to accept them back. And they're working on those things. We got to close the border down because we've had instances where people do get deported and they're back in the United States within 48 hours. And so the border has to be somewhat shut down or controlled, at least as part of this process. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for law enforcement to take dramatic action on state side until some of those things are lined up, because if we put the cart before the horse, the people could just be back, the criminals could just be back in the country in no time. So I think progress is being made on all those fronts. I'm excited about what I'm hearing. We look forward to working with Governor Noem, Secretary Noem, hopefully soon, and Tom Homan. We've had Tom, the Utah sheriffs actually had Tom Homan speak as a guest speaker at our Sheriff's Association conference just year before last, so about a year and a half ago. So he's a friend to our association. I do think we can find a lot of common ground on this issue and hopefully make some progress in a positive, constructive way.
Did you get a reply to your letter?
I haven't heard back yet from the Sheriff's Association perspective. I haven't talked to the governor's office to see if they've had a reply yet.
What does this look like for Utah as a whole, the recent executive orders, in terms of your purview and maybe how you work with ICE to the general Utahn out there that says, oh, they're ramping things up? Is that the case here in Utah yet? From what we understand, it's kind of hard to gauge given its federal activity and a lot of it is kept under wraps. But is there a ramp up in any way here in the state right now?
I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that. I haven't heard specifically of any operations or ramp up activities in the state of Utah, but I know they're planned. I know the federal government is systematically going through and trying to find hotspots and locations where action needs to be taken, and I assume Utah will fit into that list at some point. We intend to have ongoing communications. We've had some communications with state legislators, with the governor's office, obviously, and others, DPS, to see what we can do to work together to be ready. The biggest issue for the state of Utah is housing. We currently have about 40 beds in a Las Vegas facility that can be utilized for Utah, Idaho, and Montana civil detainees, and that's just not enough, right? So we think we need somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 300 beds available to us to be able to actually make a difference and start picking people up. Now, sheriffs are willing to do what we can to hold people within the the bounds of the law, but we have some limitations there in what we can do to hold a federal civil detainee, and it'll be interesting to see what happens as I read those executive orders that you talked about. It'll be interesting to see what happens to change regulations or standards or possible ways we can hold people that make it a little easier to accomplish. As of now, the federal government, and probably by design over the last several years, made it very difficult for local entities to house civil detainees. And that's really where some of the issues have come about between us and the ICE office here in Utah. The main thing that sheriffs want to talk about is just if we have criminals, whether they've committed crimes here in other countries and they're running the streets of Utah. In Utah, we take our quality of life very seriously. Not just in law enforcement, the people of Utah take their quality of life very seriously. So as sheriffs, it's our job to help people feel safe, and to the extent that we need to pick up criminal aliens and help and work with ICE to accomplish that and eventually probably get them deported, that's something we're willing to do. And I think all the sheriffs feel the same way about that. Certainly the ones that I've talked to do. It's a matter of the logistics. It's a matter of working out the details of available space and being able to accomplish that goal.